Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Finally, my first Databricks Summit.
That's great, and we're so glad that you're here. And TensorFlow is so epic for people who haven't heard of it, but TensorFlow JS, how cool is that?
Yeah, it was very fun. It was really great to make like art projects in the browser. That's really where it was really fun, yeah.
Yeah, well, speaking of demos, I hear you have some cool live demos. Love for the folks to see it.
I do. So let's switch over to the screen here. So I want to emphasize first that this is the Lilac open source project pre-Databricks. This is sort of at the time when we were being acquired. So I just want to emphasize that. The product going forward might not look like this. Okay, so at its core, what we're trying to work on is a tool to improve the quality of data sets that go into AI systems. We all know that the garbage in is garbage out. We need to understand the quality. And so what I've done here is very quickly loaded a fine-tuning data set, right? This is a data set that's used to tweak one of these big LLMs to do something for us. And specifically, this is a model that's answering user questions. So a user might ask a question like, please answer the following question, something about potatoes, and the model is supposed to say, because the response was, seller was scary. Now, the first thing you'll see is we give you a way to actually visualize the underlying data. Now, the amount of problems that we've solved just by looking at underlying data is kind of mind-blowing. It's that simple sometimes, you find immediate bugs all over the place. And so that's the first thing we do. You can arrow through individual examples and kind of get a qualitative feel for what's inside of that data set. So for example, we see that there's some Japanese text here, right? And that's an important thing to know if I'm training maybe a different type of model, right? So this is very important. This is not very principled though. So to make it more principled, we have a few things in the tool that really help with this. And so I will point you towards one of them, which is our clustering tab. And effectively what we do is we use LLMs to put each of those question-response pairs into a folder. And that folder, everything in that folder are sort of similar with each other. And we generate this report. And so all of a sudden I get this quantitative feel for what's in the data set. So I can see that, let's say if I scroll down a little bit, we have 68 question-answer pairs that are talking about sports. 143 are talking about music trivia. That's really important to understand. Now this is a bird's eye view, and I want to gain confidence in our LLM, so what we can do is we can actually zoom into this sports article questions cluster, this little mini folder, and just browse the individual examples within that cluster. And so, and then we can gain confidence in this, and we can do things like drop that cluster or curate at that cluster level. So this is a really powerful way to understand your data. There's lots of other things that I'll very quickly show you. So you can go to the stats tab, and for each of the columns, we can enrich those columns with signals, so we can run things like PII detection, or we can compute the simple text statistics like number of characters and readability and that kind of thing, and get a good distribution of our data. So I'll stop there. There's a lot of other things that we could go into, but that's a nice summary.
No, that's wonderful, that's beautiful. I can see so many applications with that. I like just visually seeing Japan and English language sets. I mean, that is an incredible use case right there, but I also noticed how you had the percentage of classification for each subcategory.
That's right.
Very, very helpful.
It's very helpful.
It's not just what the subcategory is it 90%, 10%, or are they a third, a third, a third?
That's right. We can be much more quantitative with what's inside of our data sets this way, right? Unstructured data is just hard. We don't have structured columns to distribute over, right? We have to actually understand the contents of the text to be able to get distributions on the other side. So.
Absolutely, and speaking of understanding, there's that whole concept of data quality. One of the themes that we talk about at this conference and more in the industry is like good AI or good analytics really requires good data. That's one reason, like in general, like the data intelligence platform and the whole Databricks play, but just in general, good data, what's your thoughts on that?
So yeah, so there's the phrase, good, garbage in, garbage out. That's an easy phrase to spew. And there's some obviously bad data. So garbled stuff, there's like characters that are weird. But the funny thing about data quality is that it's very subjective. So when people say good data, it's dependent on your business use case. I may be a car company, I don't need it to talk about sports trivia.
Right.
That's bad data in that context. And so what we want to do is give people the tools to actually go figure out what's good and bad quality data on their own so they can make those product decisions, because it is a product decision at the end of the day. But there's a lot of evidence that if we really do a good job of improving the quality of data, the models on the other side are much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you help with that part of the problem set. It's really the foundation of it.
That's right. Right. That is the foundation of all AI these days, right? Yep.
That's one of the cool things that I see this helping with is, you have models, you have classifications, and you can understand how good the quality is, and then it's still up to humans to figure out, is it good enough to productionalize, or do we keep churning through it?
That's right. And it also changes over time. Users may start to ask new types of questions because maybe you released a new type of product. So now data quality has to change. So we need to empower the people to make those decisions.
Exactly. Your competitor comes out with a similar sounding product. So what are you working on? What can customers start looking forward to?
It's a great question. So I would say that the Lilac stuff we're still figuring out, but generally speaking, we're working on tools to, again, empower humans to make decisions about their AI application. And so I actually gave a talk about this earlier today about how we can build continuously improving RAG systems over time, where we can monitor your data store, your evaluation set, and your logs, what users are actually asking, and create a flywheel effect where we can say, where are the holes where users are asking questions? Can we improve the data set and the eval sets to continuously create this flywheel over time? That necessarily means a human being is involved in the loop, where a business user is deciding, yes, my model can talk about X and it should not talk about Y. And so I would say that generally speaking, it's all around the tools that empower a human being to make these decisions about their AI application.
Exactly, then humans become part of that reinforcement learning loop to make things better and better again. All right, so we have 1 minute left. What do you think of the event, the conference? It's your first one.
First one.
Pretty good, right?
This is pretty great. I've had a great time talking to quite a few customers, meeting lots of Brixers. I was actually surprised at how huge this is. I've been to a lot of AI conferences like Neurops and things like that. This one is very well produced. There's a lot of people. It's really exciting. I've just been, going around and chatting about AI and data quality, right? So it's been a blast.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have 16,000 people here live, but also online, and we give a shout out and appreciation to you. Tens of thousands of people listening from about 140 countries now, live from the Lakehouse hashtag if you want to send in your watch parties. But we feel you, and we're so glad that you had the opportunity to share what you're up to. It's super exciting stuff. Can't wait to hear in the coming months and even a year from now, the next conference. But it's a year-round community. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Let's do the handshake.
There we go.
Appreciate it. Great demo.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. And now we have Connor from Data
Yeah, grab your.
Connor and I from Chicago. Come on in.
What's up, Ari?
Each other, Chicago representing.
Representing the Chicago uniform of bald, bearded, glass. It's how we roll.
I trimmed mine. Maybe I shouldn't have.
You gotta. Although it's summer, right?
Yeah.
So I think you're allowed.
Yeah, summer in Chicago. Blues Fest last weekend was amazing. But here to talk about Data IQ.
We are, yeah.
I'm a huge fan. Before I joined Databricks, I was in the auto ML space, and I know Data IQ has one of the slickest products in that space.
Thank you.
But actually is broadened beyond that. But why don't we just start off, tell us in your words what Data IQ is.
Sure. So Data IQ for me is really sort of four things, right? It's a single platform that is across all of your data, right? So you can access data from wherever. We obviously love Databricks. We work really well on top of the Databricks platform, but we also can access your data that's still on-prem and SQL and other things like that and help migrate that to Databricks. It has a multimodal interface, and that's one of the things that's a really big, why we like working with Databricks so much, is that there's so much power from the Databricks platform, but there's that barrier to entry of being a data scientist, being a data engineer, the more technical people to use it. Dataiku has visual interfaces as well that allows you to take the power of a platform like Databricks and extend it out to your business folks and your other users. We support the sort of full spectrum of analytics, right? So AutoML obviously being one of the areas that we started with, but we support building a report and something that's going into a dashboard. We support AutoML. We support sort of the full life cycle of ML for a data scientist, and then of course generative AI. And finally, because it's in one platform, all this is wrapped together with governance, security, visibility, transparency, that as you scale to more and more users across your organization and more data, you're able to sort of see who's using what, how they're using it, put the guardrails in that allows you to sort of operate in safety as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole field of this ML ops is, in addition to making models but operationalizing it, as we were talking about, the data could change. You need to understand if the data changes, are the models changing? How do you push to production? How do you govern it? Lineage, all of that.
And especially when I think about things, it's hard, especially in the people move from DevOps into ML ops, is that in DevOps and traditional software, you deploy a piece of code and that code works until somebody changes something else and propagates to the system and it breaks your code. A model is a piece of code, and so then sort of we think about it as deploying a piece of code, but it's a statistical map that reality keeps on moving, right? And so that code may continue to work, but the model's not actually working, right? Because the data has changed, or just the actual sort of nature of the underlying system we're trying to predict has changed. And so it's so important for us to be able to sort of monitor not only the data pipelines, but the performance of the model. How is it treating this? How is the data changing? How is the model performance changing? How are users changing those patterns? And then retrain, redeploy, try different models. And it's all of that is so much more necessary in the ML world than we sort of, I think, than is always appreciated in the software side.
Great, and I've been a user of Dataiku, love it, and that was actually before I joined Databricks.
Love it.
But it was more like traditional AI, and since then, Gen AI has come out.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on the whole Gen AI and Dataiku?
So I'm excited about it, right? The biggest part for me, the promise of Gen AI, and I think we're very early days, right? So there's a long way to go here, but the premise for me of Dataiku has always been, how do we make it easier for more people to have access to the data, have access to the ML tools, to be able to sort of move whatever their function is forward, right? I think it's I'm a little contrary on the term the citizen data science, of this idea of anybody given some AutoML can be a data scientist. I don't think that's actually the right approach. I think that it's, what it means to be a marketing analyst. As you develop more models, as you work with different things in different systems, you're still a marketing analyst. You're just having access to more data, better decision support systems and all that sort of stuff. But it's just changing the nature of those jobs, of being a finance analyst, a marketing analyst, a supply chain person, whatever. Generative AI to me is a huge opportunity to continue to make that more accessible, right? The ability to sort of create a data pipeline via prompt, and at least the prototype of it. The ability to sort of create the first draft of an AutoML thing without even sort of having to say, oh, well, is this a regression? Is this a clustering? What I'm trying to do? We're just continuing to make it easier to get into that. But then the flip side of it is, as we use LLMs to evaluate the output or explain the output of models, that has potential to increase interpretability in huge, huge ways, right? Where that output of a model to an end user that's not a statistician, that's not a data scientist, and doesn't know how to do this, can ask the model to sort of say, hey, why was this decision suggested to me? And the LLMs can parse through what are the betas, what are the factors on this, what are the parameters that are influencing this, in a way that a data scientist can, but a data scientist isn't there next to you to answer every single one. So that's where we're really excited about it. And then of course, for Dataiku, because we're trying to be very agnostic around what tools people are bringing, because we work in the enterprise space and everybody has tools, and you, of course, have to start with where they are. But the generative AI space is moving fast. We both been in this world for a long time. Sort of always feels like machine learning and AI has been moving quickly, but the last 18 months feels like fast even for that standard. And so, what the best model to use today is not the best model to use 2 months from now, 6 months from now, and probably won't even be available 12 months from now, right? And so that interoperability is really important for us to be able to say hey, pick which model is the right model to use today, but be able to quickly and easily swap out to what the right model is, the right approach, the right next thing. And so, look, it's early days. The ROI on most of the generative AI applications is not there yet. But I do think that there's going to be a lot that's coming, and I'm optimistic.
Absolutely, and just to piggyback on some of those ideas, AutoML or democratization, where you just push a button. Some cases maybe, but it's really trying different models, as you're saying, and if a new model that doesn't exist yet gets invented, someone online or what have you, and it gets popped into some public domain or what have you, you could add that to Dataiku at some point, and then it just becomes part of the evaluation process. So it's trying, you give it a problem, maybe give it a target variable, and say, predict something, the optimal price or likelihood of churn, and it could try multiple models, come up with metrics like R-squared, et cetera, and then the human will decide which one is the best fit for the best data.
And what's really interesting, and I think a big challenge in the LLM space, is this, we've sort of moved where a lot of the hard part before was the data prep, the feature engineering, evaluating my hyperparameters, and is this something where I'm looking at R-squared, am I looking at ROC, am I looking at an F1 squared? And there was a lot of knowledge that was necessary there. With LLMs sort of coming as prepackaged models, the hard part has moved on to the inference side, right? Especially because they're non-deterministic, right? With a traditional regression model or whatever, if I feed it the same numbers 10 times, I get the same answer 10 times.
Yes.
That is not the case with LLMs, right? And so it's changing that paradigm of where we need to put a lot of the operation, and the sort of evaluation is no longer evaluating the model itself, but evaluating the outputs.
Yes.
And so that's a challenge. And that's, I think, the first real big hurdle for companies to get over right now is, how do I compare the results of 2 or 3 different LLMs next to each other and know which one is the best one without it being, I ran 1,000 responses through 3 different LLMs and then had somebody sit and compare them. And there's the LLM as a judge idea that we're sort of starting to work towards, of implementing that within LLM ops. But I'm also, as a company, the answer is, how do I know if this LLM is good, is to use another LLM to figure out if the LLM is good. It's like, one of my concerns is obviously cost, right? So there's a lot that we still have to figure out here, and that is changing the paradigm from the traditional AI and ML. And the other thing that I'm always a little sensitive to, of course, is that as much promise as LLMs have in the generative AI space, most companies have barely even scratched the surface of what traditional ML and AI models have for them. And I've heard the term a little bit thrown around. Have you heard the term narrow AI used recently?
Yes.
I find that one kind of funny personally, because it's I look at the generative AI, obviously is more accessible to people, and it hits the sort of the human imagination in a different way than sort of the traditional modeling has. But it also does have a narrower set of use cases to be applied to at this point in time. It will grow in a little bit. But a narrower, so one could say, right? And so it's funny to me that people sort of refer to traditional AI and ML as narrow AI, where I still think that the scale of use cases there is untapped for most organizations. So,
well, one thing they are giving us to wrap up, but wanted to, sorry to cut you off, but
you're fine.
Just wanted to make sure you had a chance. Any extra shout outs, anything, any customer successes?
The thing that I would say is, I honestly don't even have a specific customer success, because there's been so much. Databricks is our fastest growing partner by far. It's been so exciting over the last year. Last year was our first time here. The amount of work that we have seen coming with our customers and Databricks jointly in this last 12 months is enormous, and I can't wait to see next year, because I think the curve is going hockey stick. It's great.
Hockey stick in so many different ways.
I love it.
All across the product line, and we appreciate the partnership.
Absolutely.
I'm a big fan, and thank you for coming on, Mark.
Thanks, Ari. Appreciate it.
And we're going to bring Pearl back on.
Thank you so much. Ari, I'm going to have to send you off.
I have a special surprise coming up, so I got to go.
Yes.
I'll be back after this.
I'm like, what surprise? Hey, Oliver. Here, Michael. Okay, so I am here with 2 amazing special guests, Oliver and Michael. Oliver, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sure. So my name is Oliver Chu. I do product marketing at Databricks, specifically on generative AI.
Awesome.
And I'm Michael Griffiths, and I lead industry marketing here at Databricks.
Cool deal. So we're here to talk about the state of data and AI. And I kind of wanted to know, there's a report going around. I'm new to this. I'm sure some of our audience members are as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what the report is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the state of data and AI is something that Databricks has done for a few years now, where we actually go into our underlying data of what customers are actually doing with our products, and we try to understand trends of what's actually happening from the data itself of what our customers are actually doing. And what we then do is we then produce reports summarizing all the major trends that are happening within kind of the data and AI space, specifically with our customers.
Yeah.
And we produced a report that is freely available for anyone to get. You can actually get it right now. We've already released it yesterday.
Awesome, congrats.
Yeah, and then you can Google it, you can find it, and then you can just get access to it, and it will tell you a lot of really interesting insights about what customers are doing today around data and AI.
That's awesome, that's awesome. What are some of the trends that you saw in that report?
Yeah, so there's 3 really key trends that we saw. The number one was around, it actually was a lot of trends around AI specifically. Of course, it's a hot topic of today. But there was, I would split them up between kind of this classical AI as well as Gen AI, which is the thing that everyone wants to talk about is Gen AI.
Yes.
But as it relates to classical AI, what we saw was that way more enterprises and customers were able to deploy their ML and AI models into production.
Okay.
We saw a trend of 11x more models being put into production as it relates to kind of this classical AI and ML. So that was a really, really cool and very promising trend.
Yeah.
And then we had like a couple of new trends around generative AI.
Okay.
And so for generative AI, what we saw was the dominant generative application pattern was what we call RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Yes.
Which is essentially being able to augment your LLM or your Gen AI model with your enterprise data.
Okay.
So that was a predominant application pattern. 70% of Gen AI customers were deploying with RAG application patterns. So that was one of the first trends for Gen AI.
That's awesome.
And then the second trend for Gen AI was more and more organizations were deploying open source models as it relates to LLMs. And so that was a really interesting trend as well.
That's really cool. So Michael, how does some of these trends apply to, some use cases or an industry or businesses?
Yeah, it's one thing we really try to do is put things in context of our customers. We focus on retail, public sector, manufacturing and energy, healthcare, industries like that, and we yesterday had over 2,200 attendees attend our industry forum.
Wow.
And so you get some really interesting insights. So the number that Oliver mentioned, the 11 times more models going into production, but it's not the same for every vertical. So as an example, retail is the most likely to have models in production. So for every 4 that they're experimenting with, one of those is going into production, which is really not a surprise. Retailers focus on customer recommendations, footfall, traffic pattern analysis. We know computer vision's a big movement, but then in financial services, which is a highly regulated industry, they've traditionally seen far fewer. So you'd have 29 models in experimentation, but only 1 going into production. What's fascinating is in this year's report, we saw financial services, an example, move from 29-to-1 ratio to a 10-to-1 ratio, which means now those customers are far more confident going to production with generative AI, and we think it really coincides in large part to the launch of data intelligence.
Yes.
Because they feel confident in the governance, the security, the control that they have over their data. Healthcare was another where we saw them really taking and embracing the idea of open models alongside proprietary. Healthcare has 30% of the world's data, which is incredible.
Yeah.
And that number's only growing. So we try to really take that type of insight and help our customers understand, well, what does this all mean for my specific industry?
That's awesome. That's really, really insightful. So Oliver, question for you. Was there anything in the report that kind of jumped out at you that was kind of interesting and different that you weren't expecting to see?
Yeah, actually, the thing that was the most interesting was how much adoption that we saw with the open source models.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the most interesting things because right now the current level of kind of news and announcements and hype, I would say, around the generative AI space is oftentimes associated with the proprietary models.
Yes.
Right? The ones that are coming from OpenAI as an example, from Google. And we have a ton of customers who are doing that alongside with Databricks.
Yeah.
And so I kind of expected that the predominant models that were being deployed was going to be from those more more kind of well-known models. But what we saw was, wow, it's like 70% of the models that were deployed were actually open source. That was an amazing stat that we just never expected.
Yeah.
And of course, they're moving so quickly.
Yeah.
Because within that report kind of being written up, I think in that same week or two, when we looked at the data, Meta had just released their latest state-of-the-art model, Llama 3.
Llama 3, yes.
And it was already around high 30s percentage points of how many customers have actually adopted Llama 3 amongst the open source models that are being deployed. So it's just, all it does is it points to the fact that this space is moving so quickly, but customers are starting to find value, not just from the commercial models, but also from the open source models as well.
That's awesome. So Michael, what are some innovative things you see customers doing? I see there's a lot of talk about NLPs in this report. Is there anything interesting that customers are doing using NLPs?
Yeah, it's a great question. So NLP, natural language processing, now that generative AI has really turned English into the new programming language, we see customers in spaces like healthcare with clinical virtual assistants to help do next best action for preventative medicine, which is awesome. But we're also seeing that really grow fast in like manufacturing and energy.
Yeah.
Where you've got field service scenarios where someone can just ask a question about how do I do preventative maintenance or find out how to fix something. And then we're seeing other scenarios even outside of that, like geospatial and public sector, where people are thinking a lot about emergency recovery.
Yeah.
And then time series for things like clinical trials and drug discovery. So it's fascinating to see how NLP is being adopted across all industries, and now there are a number of other scenarios that are becoming fairly prevalent as well.
That's really interesting. Wow. Well, we have a few minutes left, not a lot of time, but I kind of wanted to know how your week has been here at the summit. What have you been looking forward to? What have you experienced?
Yeah, I mean, this summit is actually my first summit. Yeah, so
that's awesome.
It's been crazy, amazing. Like, we are here in the showroom floor with all of our tens of thousands of our best friends. So yeah, I mean, I'm just super excited about just being at Databricks. This is my first year at Databricks, and so I just can't believe how big this production is. And just the fact that we hold the largest data and AI summit for customers. It's just been amazing to be part of this atmosphere. So yeah, I'm just excited to be here, really.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Oliver. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, this is my third summit, so I've had the opportunity to see just the explosive growth in this event. It's amazing, and just really inspired this morning hearing from our customers like General Motors, Block. Tomorrow, I think we'll hear from the Texas Rangers. It's just such an exciting time that the promise of what AI could do is now really coming to fruition. So I mean, it couldn't be at a better place and time if you're in the tech world.
I'm with you. This is my third summit as well, and I'm just like, wow, we're just getting bigger and better and more creative. I'm so excited. But I think we have a bit more time. Okay, we have to wrap up, but it was so great talking with y'all about the.
By the way, you killed it this morning in the demo. So just this is a star right here.
If anyone did not see, you should go check out the keynotes on replay on YouTube.
Thank you so much.
That was an awesome demo.
Y'all are amazing. Thank you. The humble brag. Thank you all for visiting us today. We are here live at the Lakehouse. This was Oliver and Michael talking to you about the State of Data and AI report. And we're going to move on to the next segment. So see y'all in a bit. Thank y'all. Hi, I remember you. Welcome back.
Sure,
Second year in a row. Hi, what was your name?
Aaron Cooper.
Aaron Cooper, nice to meet you. I know you, Scott. So what brings y'all here today? What do you want to talk about? Let's keep it fun.
Well, we're talking about AI because everybody's talking about
No, literally,
AI.
everyone is talking about AI. So let's make it more fun. What about AI?
We're talking about regulation.
Okay.
So I'm now in the role of chief policy officer.
Oh, you moved.
Public affairs officer.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations.
The Software Alliance. And
Okay.
Aaron is from the Software Alliance.
Wow, that is amazing. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, Aaron.
So what we do is we're a trade association that represents companies like Databricks and others that provide business-to-business software tools.
Awesome.
And cloud tools and AI, and we work on what regulations are going to look like to make sure that the way AI is developed and deployed is responsible.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And tell me, Scott, what do you bring to Databricks? Because it seems like Aaron is doing his thing.
Yeah, well, so I'm now in the public affairs role,
Yeah.
but I was in the legal department for many years. I was the first attorney here at Databricks.
Wow.
So although I'm not a lobbyist, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to roam the halls of Congress.
Well, that's good.
Do a lot of backslapping. I rely on Aaron and his team for that. But I do know the industry pretty well. I know Databricks pretty well.
Yes.
Before I was at Databricks, I was in the SaaS world since its beginning. And so that industry knowledge, I think, helps. I've spent most of my time benefiting from a lot of information from BSA.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep up with what regulations are coming up, on the horizon related to AI and some other areas as well.
That's awesome.
With all the new developments in AI, one of the key things for policymakers to know and for customers to know is what are the set of best practices that help make sure that the way AI is being developed is responsible, that it's robust and accurate, it's not going to lead to discrimination, and having experts like Scott be able to say, these are the kinds of things that make sense and really help advance responsible, trustworthy AI, helps in our advocacy and talking to policymakers to make sure that they understand what those best practices are and why we think they're effective.
That's awesome. So what are, like, if you could choose maybe 3 things that policymakers should think about when it comes to responsible AI, what are those things?
I think number one, we want to make sure that AI can be used responsibly, but that we are taking steps, companies are taking steps to make sure that as they're developing it, the data they're using is representative and accurate, that it's producing results that are reliable and are not creating harms like discrimination, things like that. And those are, I think, crucial aspects of making sure that an AI regulatory landscape helps achieve the vision that we see here at the conference of being able to use AI in so many different industry sectors in order to make those industry sectors more successful, more competitive globally, and that way the whole ecosystem does well.
I love that. I love that. So how do you stay, and either one of y'all can answer, how do you stay up to date on like these trends and how companies, policymakers should stay up to date on these things? How do you stay up to date to stay up to date? Like
I listen for him to tell me, but that's
he's
his
your
role,
mentor.
so I'll defer to him.
I come to excellent conferences like this. I speak with I speak with people like Scott to understand how the technology is developing, how they see it developing in the future, and then we can put that together with what are policymaker concerns. How can we then address those policymaker concerns in a way that's consistent with the way Databricks takes their responsibility seriously, so that the conversation between companies and policymakers is at the same level and people are not talking past each other.
Awesome. And so what do you think Databricks, from a regulation, responsible AI point of view, what do you think that we do that's really good?
So I think it's a combination of things. I think the cloud management platforms are really important. I think that the way the open source generative AI development has taken place in order to help improve a competitive landscape for those customers that want to train, retrain an existing model and then deploy it in a safe and responsible way. Taking those steps at the outset to deserve trustworthiness is something that I think is important for the industry.
I think Unity Catalog is really important for the governance and security. And also, as Ali mentioned in the keynote this morning, Unity Catalog also provides discovery, lineage and versioning and audit of it. And all of that is important for responsible AI and for complying with the regulations.
Yeah, that's huge. I actually had a question for you. I wanted to know, based on your past experiences, how has that helped you in your new role, your new alignment?
My past experiences?
Yeah.
Well, so, when I talk to policymakers or indirectly through BSA, and when I talk to Aaron's team, I can explain some certain things. I'm not a technologist by background, but I've been in the SaaS industry for, I hate to say how many decades, but it's been since its beginning. Back when it used to be called the application service provider sector. Yeah.
Okay.
That dates me. But I can kind of talk the talk and explain some of the things that we do and that we don't do and why in the B2B space, we should be treated a little bit differently than the consumer-facing space. Why open source is so important in the B2B space.
Yeah.
A lot of policymakers, they hear open source is important, but they don't really understand why.
Yes.
They just think, well, it's just, if anybody can grab it, including bad actors. Yeah, but you can also control the model if you're an enterprise. You can put your data in it and not let anybody else need to touch it.
That's right.
You can move it from vendor to vendor. There's no vendor lock-in. There's more competition. There's lower cost.
That's true.
So much value to it, and I can help explain that.
That's awesome.
And this is not an industry that's afraid of regulation. Regulation makes sense, but it's making sure that people with Scott's experience and expertise talk to policymakers so that they understand how different forms of regulation will impact the entire economy. And I think that's a way that everybody gets to benefit in the end.
Yes, definitely. I want to know, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to know how your experience has been at the summit so far.
Well, we both just participated on a fantastic panel.
Yeah,
what was
the
that
best.
one?
It was on AI regulation.
Of
We
course.
co-presented, yeah.
But for me, this is my first time being to this
Really?
conference. And
Welcome.
thank you. Going to some of the earlier sessions and just getting a sense of the way different industries are using Databricks or using data and AI management tools that they have has been really helpful and interesting, because it's not the kind of work that I do is on behalf of the enterprise tech sector, but it's because of the way other industries can take advantage of the kinds of products and services that they have.
Yes, I love that. I love that. What about you, Scott?
I've been coming to these ever since 2016, and the remarkable thing, of course, is how much it's changed.
Yes.
I believe a football field could fit in the room where we had the keynotes this morning.
Really?
I think so.
It was massive.
Kicks might hit the roof, but I think it was at least 100 yards. I was a little late, so I was in the back, and there was Ali, and he was about the size of an ant. But fortunately, there were the screens. But it's an amazing thing to see all these people excited about the things that we do.
Yes, it's packed out in here. Like, I don't know if y'all can hear the noise. That's people walking around. That's music. The camaraderie is amazing. I've been here for 3 years, and I was just telling the other guests that like each year it just gets better and better. Like, even next year, I'm like looking forward to what we bring to the table.
The excitement and the energy around the kinds of tools that are being rolled out and the way they can be used by different industries is it's infectious. It's
yes,
really good.
That's a good word. That's a good word. So my question for you is, what are some things that you are just forward-looking, future-looking? What are some AI regulations that you kind of see coming into play that we should be mindful of?
So one of the things that we talked about in this session was the European Union has just enacted the first really comprehensive AI regulation, and there'll be a lot of implementation steps from that. But I think we know based on it that what the contours of rules around AI are likely to be in different places around the world.
Okay,
so
that's
often
awesome.
it follows from what the EU has done, and it'll take different forms in different places, but the general structure I think is probably there.
That's awesome. That's really cool. What about you, Scott?
Well, from the Databricks perspective, unfortunately, we're very aligned with BSA and the rest, most of its membership, but we really hyper-focus on open source and making sure that regulation is crafted so that it doesn't unduly hinder open source, because it's so important in the B2B space. And also that there's a distinction between B2B providers and consumer-facing AI.
That's right.
Where more regulation is probably warranted in a consumer-facing application.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I'm watching out for. There are a lot of states that are moving bills forward, and with the help of BSA, I can kind of monitor those and hone in on the ones that look particularly concerning.
That is really great. I personally learned a lot. I always learn a lot from you, of course, Scott. But this year, I learned a lot from you, Aaron. And thank you so much for sharing. I hope our audience also learned a lot about AI regulation. But we are definitely at time. So I do have to go to the next segment. But it was great again. I hope you have a phenomenal summit. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And I hope you have fun for your first one.
We enjoyed it.
Thank you. Take care. So we are actually going to head over into the expo hall to see what's going on. We got Ari there with a few guests. So let's go ahead. Off to you, Ari.
All right, we have just taken Live from the Lakehouse to the Expo Hall floor. I am Ari Kaplan, co-host of Live from the Lakehouse, and we're here with Adam Crown, and we are at the Industry Solutions Hub. So very exciting to be out here. You can see all the wonderful interest in the industry solutions. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah.
Certainly, Ari, thank you so much for having us here. And thank you for inviting us to the Lakehouse. Can you feel the energy here? It's pretty amazing, isn't it? It is. You know, look around at all of these different hubs. We have so many customers interested in talking about the solutions that we're showcasing here on the floor at Data and AI Summit here in 2024. So my name's Adam Crown. I lead industry marketing for healthcare and life sciences. And I spent a lot of time here this week focusing on our industry experience. So we're obviously in the Industry Solutions Hub. We're showcasing 7 of our core industries here at Data and AI Summit. And I'd like to talk a little bit about what we're doing from an industry perspective here at the show. So we're here on the floor. Each of these 7 industries, we're showcasing the different solutions, customer stories, as well as some of the exciting new things that we've released at the show here today. And one of the things that we're going to do as part of this experience is kind of walk you around and give you firsthand insights into how some of our customers are leveraging the power of data intelligence in their organizations. So when I think about the industry experience here, it's not just about the demos, it's not just about the solutions, but it's also about the amazing customer stories and those organizations that are here showcasing what they're doing. You know, when I think about our industry, yesterday we had industry forums. We had about 2,200 attendees listening in across healthcare and life sciences, public sector, financial services, retail and consumer goods, manufacturing and transportation, energy, and of course, communications, media and entertainment. And what we heard during those sessions were the latest and greatest technologies that we're releasing, and of course, our customer stories. And when I also think about this opportunity here today, Ari, this is a really great opportunity to have our customers talk directly about how they're leveraging the power of data intelligence. So what I'm going to do is walk around and give you the floor, and we'll have an opportunity to hear from our customers directly. So let's first start in our healthcare and life sciences industry, the industry that I hold near and dear to my heart. You know, here we're showcasing solution accelerators around retrieval augmented generation. So think about the ability to inspect data with a clinical virtual assistant, leveraging the power of data and AI to be able to use natural language to then retrieve information from your organization's data. So a care manager, for instance, is trying to better understand how they care for their patient under their care. We're showcasing that today. Now, what I'm going to do is hand it over to Angelina. Angelina is one of our solution architects from the healthcare and life sciences industry. She's going to be talking with Cecilia Collins, who's from Mercy, an integrated delivery network in St. Louis. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Angelina and let them have the show.
Hi everyone, it's Angelina Lee. I'm a solutions architect in healthcare and life sciences. Very excited to be joined here today with Cecilia Collins, principal platform admin at Mercy Health Systems. They're headquartered in St. Louis. I had the pleasure to work with her for some time with Databricks, and we're excited to speak about a little bit more some of the use cases that they're doing at Mercy. She actually spoke yesterday at the HLS forum and spoke about some of her use cases there. Cecilia, do you mind just talking about one of those use cases around Gen AI that resonated with you?
Sure, thank you. Yes, I think one of the most exciting use cases that we have right now is a model that is live in 29 locations right now, 29 of our hospitals. It's called the Nursing ED to Inpatient Handoff project, and it's a GPT-4 model that scans the notes that the emergency department nursing staff enters when a patient comes in. And when that patient has to be admitted to an inpatient unit, the inpatient nurses now get a nice summary, automatic summary of the ED notes. So it's saved both nursing staffs an incredible amount of time. They don't have to spend as much time in the charts reviewing notes. It's automating the summary, and it's improving the patient experience. It's reducing a lot of manual effort for the nursing staff. It's improving the communication. So it's just been a great experience so far for everyone. It was created with a multidisciplinary team of data scientists, the bedside nurses, the nursing informaticists, the Epic team. They ran into a lot of data challenges. What a lot of people fail to recognize is that so many modeling efforts, one of the reasons they don't make it to production is because they all have different challenges, whether they're always going to have some data challenges. Like this one, they had to create a new Epic interface to deal with incomplete notes. They had to do some extra calculation around token usage and availability, et cetera. So you're always going to run into data challenges. If you don't have a solid platform that otherwise makes the process easier, it's no surprise that roughly half of the modeling projects don't make it to production ever. So, and one of the other really nice things about this was the close collaboration between the data science team and the Epic team and the nurses. So the people who were going to use this tool, which were the different nursing teams, were directly involved with the design of it. That's really key obviously key for user adoption and making sure that the tool is really going to make a difference. And then I think it's important to call out that this model went from a pilot at one location to being in 29 locations in less than 3 months. So it started in March, and it's now live in 29 locations. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, and especially going from one location to 29 locations in production, that's a big deal. And setting the foundation with Unity Catalog and data quality, allowing you to do that use case. Before we wrap up, just any other thoughts in terms of what you want to improve with that use case, what you're working on to make it more efficient now at Mercy?
Sure. I know the data science team is excited about Lakehouse monitoring. I think they even worked with the Databricks developers on that project to give some feedback. So that's been nice to see them that closely involved with the platform development. I know that they're using Lakehouse monitoring and some custom monitoring dashboards, and they've already caught some key issues like data leakage with some of the models. So they're focusing now on ML ops and adding more feature stores and some function stores. And I think they'll be excited if they watch the keynote from this morning to hear about the agents. So that's very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cecilia. Pass it.
Excellent. Awesome. Cecilia, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We very much so appreciate it. Angelina, thank you for being a great host. All right, now we're going to turn it over to our public sector industry. We're going to hear from Lisa Sion, who's the industry marketing lead for our public sector. And we're going to hear from Sean Benjamin, who's from USCIS. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Lisa. Lisa.
Thanks so much, Adam. So I am so excited this year to be representing public sector. As Adam said, I'm the Director of Industry Marketing. I've been at Databricks for 2.5 years, and this has been the biggest, most exciting Data and AI Summit yet. First of all, on my right, we have Filippo, and he leads our product security for Databricks, and we've been working really closely on some exciting stuff for public sector, and I just invited him here to talk to you about what these new developments are, what they're going to mean for our public sector customers, and then we're going to speak with Sean about actually how they're using the product. So, Filippo.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. Filippo Seracini here. So, yeah, this year is really an awesome year for the public sector space. We have so many announcements going on. We have FedRAMP Moderate on AWS Commercial, which is available for all the classic features, and we are bringing to the serverless feature and Mosaic AI feature as well in the next couple months. So a lot of new feature will be in the scope for FedRAMP, especially in US East 1. And another big announcement, we are currently in public preview for our AWS GovCloud offering, where we're pursuing FedRAMP High and DoD Impact Level 5. So both of those FedRAMP High, we expect to have the PMO ATO by this fall, and as well next few months we expect also to receive the IL5 authorization. And announcement that we're doing this week here at the Data and AI Summit is that we're going to go GA with the AWS GovCloud offering at the end of July. So lots of good news and lots of new features coming for the public sector, for FedRAMP and IL5. So very excited to be here and supporting the public sector. Back to Sean.
No worries. Thank you so much, Filippo. So as I said, Sean Benjamin with the USCIS, that's the U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services, and they have been a customer of Databricks for 8+ years.
Since 2017.
Since 2017. And so this has been a really great journey you've been on, and I know you spoke at our summit, our forum yesterday. I'd love to hear from you about kind of this past year and your modernization journey as you came from PVC to E2.
Yes, absolutely. So PVC, we were on PVC for 6 out of the 7 years that we've been with Databricks. We made our migration last fall, well, maybe summer, into E2. And I told my team the big reason why we did this is because I wanted E2. We just went into production with E2 2 weeks ago. I believe we're first in the federal space to do so. And we're really going to use that to capitalize on all the data lineage and the tagging. It really supports our zero trust initiatives in the agency. It's very important to us. And understanding and knowing where all our data is. So super excited. The product keeps delivering for us, and we have a very, very innovative team. So we just keep creating. It's a big playground, and people are having fun in it. And we're bringing data to 15,000 users and growing because of Databricks. And it's really helped us unlock the data, and obviously unifying the data, creating enterprise data lake and working at enterprise scales. So.
I know a lot of our customers are very interested in adopting Unity Catalog. You guys just went live, and it was something that was really exciting you've been wanting to do for a long time. I mean, what are some of the things that you can now do that you couldn't do before?
The data lineage. It's really hard to understand with as much data as we have, 169 data sources, where it came in, where it started, and where it's going. And everybody wants to know, like, who's using that report. I've had it on my wish list to know, like, hey, what's our most popular data? I have an idea, but I'm just a human, where data lineage can now show me with a couple clicks, like, these are the people that are using your data. We can see the number of views. I did like this morning on the keynote, there was that one view that showed, like, these are the number of users that are using this data set. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know we had that. So now I'm going to use that all the time, because I'm going to be looking for all of our executives and directors to say, hey, look, I helped bring this to you. She's using it. I love that. So
wait, what's next? We're wrapping up now, but what are you excited about that you've heard so far today?
All the new capability around Delta Share, the managed tables. What's most exciting for me now, Lisa, is I'm in E2. I'm going to get it. I'm not going to have to wait months or years. I'm not going to have to bug you guys to tell me, get your engineers on this, and we're trying, Yeah. So we have it. So we're really excited to be able to unlock capability literally immediately. Obviously, things have to go through their cycles, but now this is a hurdle that we don't have to worry about. And that's the biggest reason to go to E2. So yes, all my federal partners and friends, go into E2, and then I'm going to share data with you, and you're going to share data with me.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's been a pleasure talking to you and having you at the conference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Back to Adam.
Lisa, Sean, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. I thought that this was awesome. All right, now we're going to turn it over to our financial services industry. We're going to hear from Spencer Cook, who's one of our solution architects for financial services, as well as Adam Wood, who comes from MasterCard. So I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it from there.
Thank you. Hey everyone, Spencer Cook here from Databricks. I'm a solutions architect on the West Coast Financial Services team. Really excited to have Adam Wood with me from MasterCard. Adam, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Adam Wood. I manage data governance platforms for MasterCard. We've been a proud Databricks customer for a little over a year. Been working with Spencer and the team on how we can stand up governance solutions for the Databricks cloud.
Thanks, Adam. So one of the things that the conversation responsibility. You think about Databricks from a governance perspective. What do you think about? What's appealing to you?
So first and foremost, it's an encapsulated platform. It makes it so much easier from a governance perspective to be able to look at everything under one roof. So when we first started using Unity Catalog, the ability to look at every data set, all of the metadata in it, to be able to track that through data lineage completely from end to end, the way that it's used by notebooks, the way that it's used by individual users, that level of traceability is something we have not seen in other platforms. It's something that really helped you guys stand apart. And then also, when we...
Data and AI.
Well, data and AI,
right?
I know.
We're at the data and AI.
Well, no, it's all data usage, right? So it's not just querying, it's not just who's accessing the data, it's what they're using it for that's so important for governance and privacy and a lot of the security that we do. And so underneath the covers with all of this too, there's a ton of auditability that really gives us a lot of faith in the ability to see what actions are being taken on our data, how it's being improved, and what's leveraging it, which is a huge win for us.
Okay, that really helps. So, it's clear that auditability, basically being able to connect the dots between what's happening and then go all the way through proving it out after the fact when you need to answer for those things, right? That's all really exciting, and I know we've been working on this heavily. Just based off what you've heard today and so far this week, what's got you excited about what you're going to be able to do this time next year?
So one of the things that is fantastic here is how many new announcements are coming out that make my life easier. Even in the last couple weeks, or the last couple months even, looking at Lilac and unstructured data classification, looking at row-level data security and being able to do finer grain access controls. The types of things that we're seeing out of Databricks very quickly, even in some of the announcements that have happened in the last couple days, give us a lot of new tools. And we've been talking with Databricks about furthering the advancement of governance capabilities like advanced PII detection. There's a lot more privacy-enhancing technologies that we see in Databricks as well. Clean rooms being one of the newest developments. And so for those of you that don't know, my peer, John DeRico, is actually giving a talk with Spencer at the conference going through clean rooms and how that is such a secure data sharing protocol. Really excited about it. We keep seeing new developments that are just making us more secure and letting us use data faster. Usually you don't see those two things happen in the same space. So being able to improve governance controls and progress AI and generative AI research faster, it's fantastic. Love seeing it.
Makes sense. Yeah, and that's a great point about clean rooms, right? Because when we think about governance, one of the biggest limitations is a lot of tools or a lot of platforms, they only govern their domain. So they only do data or they only do reporting, right? And so when you think about something like clean rooms being built on top of Delta sharing inside of Unity Catalog, you're getting that additional service in your governance layer, right? So when we confirm, a clean room safely executed this privacy-enhancing technology, we're using the systems your teams are building to prove that out. Okay, so I know we're getting short on time, but I've got to ask, what's top of my mind, you know what I'm going to ask. I've got 3 letters, OSS.
So, the Helen of Troy was the face that launched 1,000 ships. That was one slide that launched about 1,000 questions from me. So the open sourcing of Unity Catalog, so many questions. I'm really excited about it because we've seen the power of Unity in the data governance space for what's in the platform right now. If there's a way to apply that in other areas that we're looking at, other cloud environments that we're looking to use, to gain that level of control and be able to integrate it back with the core Unity catalog that we're already using with Databricks. I mentioned very early on that the one umbrella view of governance is sort of the penultimate of what we want. So if we can do some of that with open source Unity, could not be more excited. I'm excited to learn more.
Absolutely. No, that's great, Adam. I'm excited for you to hear all the details from Matei tomorrow, but we've got to keep some secrets for the second keynote. Hey, thanks a bunch. It was great chatting with you. Enjoy the rest of your week on site.
Thank you, Spencer.
Spencer, Adam, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. We really appreciate it. We've just covered the regulated industries within this Industry Solutions Hub here at Data and AI Summit. Now we're going to transition over to our manufacturing and transportation industry, where we're going to hear from David Roberts, who's one of our solution architects from the industry, and he's going to introduce his customer as well. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you. Welcome to Manufacturing and Transportation, where we're helping manufacturers transform through data and AI their products from cradle to grave, servicing them from end to end through their life cycle over decades. I'm here with Steven, and he's going to talk through a quick intro about himself and a little bit about how he's using Databricks to drive longevity through the life cycle of his assets.
Hi, I'm Steve Yurkovich. I've been working in the nuclear industry, currently for Westinghouse Electric Company for the last 8 years. I've had the opportunity to work on 4 different continents at nuclear plants, basically building modern data systems for these plants that generally were designed in the 50s and 60s, built 70s and 80s. And we have a ton of data from throughout decades that all different types of data that we're trying to centralize in a location where we could have very tight governance because we're heavily regulated. That's one of the major things about nuclear industry. We got to protect our data.
Excellent. And so you operate across the globe. So many manufacturers are struggling. They operate in many jurisdictions across the globe. They want to make sure their data is governed, it's secure. So can you tell us a little bit about how you are using Unity Catalog to help make sure that you comply with all those jurisdictions you operate within?
Yeah, of course. So we are in 21 countries. So we definitely follow GTC, Global Trade and Compliance, export control. We have to have privacy regulations considered, nuclear safety regulations. So we just started Unity Catalog about a year ago, and deploying that through Terraform. And that's a great way for us to control who has access to what, integrated with Azure Active Directory, who has access to what. It's the process is built around it to make sure that we are always 100% confident that we are in compliance.
So you have your data, it's in the Lakehouse, you have it, you're able to build your pipelines, govern it, fulfill reporting requirements. What are you looking for to build next on the Lakehouse? What's next in the data intelligence platform as we move to this era of intelligence, generative AI, AI ML? What are some of the things that you're looking forward to use within the platform to go to the next step?
Well, I'm not going to start with the LLMs. That's the obvious one, right? I took some training this week, so really interested in actually applying some privacy features, very clever features to make sure that we are staying within US-only regulations. Then liquid clustering on some rather large tables. Really excited to try to enable that and see what benefit we'll have. The Databricks AI BI. Yeah, I have a couple good resources, a couple good teams I really want to enable with that. And then flipping on Genie with that. Yeah, really excited there. And of course we have more than a handful of LLM on RAG architecture in our backlog. We just started a few the last couple weeks. So we're really looking to get the best out of our data, and I think we could do that with Databricks.
And we were talking a little bit about some of the sessions this week, the keynotes. I think before, you mentioned you saw something very insightful at the keynote. You want to share what you learned?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jensen, that's probably everyone's favorite talk, even though they were all very good. I thought he said something that was so wise, and it was just, whatever you do, just start. And I think that's so applicable for our industry with the platform that builds and grows as fast as Databricks does across multiple disciplines, you could kind of get in analysis paralysis, and just start. And I think that's just so relatable.
Excellent, and that's right. Our manufacturers, they have all this data, they're drowning in data. How do they just get started? That's what we're talking about here at the Industry Solutions Expo, really making sure there's ways to get started on Databricks, bringing your data in wherever your biggest pain point is, driving that use case from end to end, being able to handle everything you need to do in data and AI, and maintain that governance from end to end. So thank you, Stephen. Really appreciate it.
David, Steve, really appreciate your time today. Love the perspective here. All right, we're going to have one more industry perspective, and we're going to take it over here to the energy. We're going to end on a high note. We're really excited about this one. We have our amazing customers as well as our solution architect here who are going to introduce themselves. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Ivo.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, hi, it's Ivo from Amsterdam. I work with energy customers of Databricks in Europe, but now also in the US. We're standing here in front of the energy booth at the Data and AI Summit. And with me, I have Brent Raley from CP Chemicals. So can I ask you to introduce yourself and the company?
I would be glad to, Ivo. My name is Brent Raley, and I'm with Chevron Phillips Chemical Company. Been with the company for 20 years. That is hard to believe. But Chevron Phillips Chemical Company is a dominant player in the petrochemical space. Our main bread and butter are olefins and polyolefins, ethylene, polyethylene. And if you don't know what polyethylene is, it's a plastics product that's pretty much in almost everything that you touch. Whether it's a bread bag, a milk jug, playground equipment, boat holes, it's a building block to a lot of the materials that we use in the products that we have today. But we're also in the odorant space, like we make the odorants that go into natural gas. We're in the lubricant space. We make components that go into synthetic motor oils, for example. So we make a lot of different products that touch across the board. So from an objective standpoint, our vision statement is to be the world's premier chemical company, known as the employer, supplier, neighbor, and investment of choice. And when you hear that vision statement, every component of that has data and has an impact. So employer, for example, why do we have that emphasized? Well, we're not a sexy industry like tech. You know, we want to be able to recruit people to our industry, and one of the reputations about oil and gas is that it may not be safe. Well, we want people to know that it is safe to work for our companies. We take extra efforts to ensure that our employees are going to go home every night, you know, safe, sound, secure to their families. We want to be able to be attractive from a competitive standpoint to, you know, to attract employees to us from a compensation. And there's data involved with both of those, like safety statistics, operating conditions, making sure we understand what's going on in our process, preventing, you know, abnormal situations from getting worse, things like that. So when you look at the word supplier, that's speaking to our relationship with our customers, and I would even say to our vendors as well. We want to be reliable. We want to have high quality products. We want to be able to deliver on time. We want to have high degrees of customer service. Data touches all of those things. How do I produce reliably? Well, I've got to have preventative maintenance schedules. I've got to be able to know what equipment's about to fail. I've got to have minimal unplanned outages. Data and analytics helps us operate better and more reliably. Quality. We want to make sure we're actually using machine learning in some cases to inference the quality of our products before we actually get lab testing, because we want to know early when we're off spec, increase our on-spec production so our customers complain less. So customer service, we want to be able to be available to our customers. We see a lot of generative AI potential in that space, being able to quickly respond. We have a good reputation in the industry on our customer service front. And then when you look at the neighbor side, you know, that's speaking to sustainable, environmental. You know, we have a lot of risk in our processes. We don't want to be releasing things to atmosphere or to water that don't belong there. We want to protect the environment. We want our neighbors that live next to us to be comfortable with us being there. And of course, emissions, that's a big piece of what we do, and that is a very data-intensive endeavor. And so, let me hand it over, okay?
Yeah. Wow, so you have many different business lines. You already alluded to the role of data and how that ties into the objectives of your company. Now we're here at the Data and AI Summit from Databricks, so we are of course curious to know, you already said you're using ML, but are you then also using Databricks for that? And yeah, what other Databricks features are you using for these data applications?
There are other platforms that do ML? No, I'm just kidding. No, so we use Databricks for a wide spectrum of components. We use it for our block and tackle, ingestions, data cleansing, data preparation. We're using Unity Catalog now heavily because that gives us an avenue, especially Unity Catalog combined with serverless SQL, that gives us an ability to serve data up to our consumers. And you know, Databricks has been a forward thinker in a lot of this stuff, so that's why we've partnered with them in a lot of these endeavors, because they're clearly going to make it easier for people to get to their data faster and more reliably than their competition, in my personal opinion. I'll say it that way. So we're using the serverless SQL compute, we're using the Unity Catalog, and we're using Flow for the components around machine learning models as well.
Well, that sounds really good. Thank you for alluding a bit to that. And with that, we're already going back to Adam.
Ivo, Brent, thank you so much for sharing your perspectives. What an energetic floor. What a great way to finish on this industry. Now, Ari, we're going to turn it back over to you in the studio. Thanks so much for tuning in.
All right, thank you for coming back from the expo hall. Adam Crown and every single one of those 7 industries, all of the customers, all of the partners at Databricks to help make that happen was amazing. And we have another industry here, the CME. I'm Ari Kaplan, co-host live from the Lakehouse with Alexander and Oliver with the Show the Rings world champion Texas Rangers. And but by the way, we are on with like 140 countries around the world. Those who are here see your images on billboards, on signs, on everything. So why don't you introduce yourselves and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, great. Hello, my name is Alexander Booth. I'm the Assistant Director of Research and Development with the Texas Rangers Baseball Club. I'm their data architect, designing the new big data system that took us from the bottom of the table to winning the whole thing last year.
Hey everybody, my name is Oliver Dykstra. I'm a data engineer for the Texas Rangers. Last year was my first year. It was a great time to get on board. And I've been doing a lot of the data pipelines, migration over to Databricks, and all that good stuff. Yeah.
Oliver's current World Series record is 1-0, so hopefully he can keep that perfect record this season.
1,000%. You know, congratulations. That's wonderful. And all 3 of us had met like in spring, even before, but like right at spring training, right before it happened. So what I love, and we'll talk about how sports analytics is really driven by data and AI, but you see the full life cycle from when you scout players, when you do spring training, how do you prepare for games, and then through the season, all the way through the playoffs and then the championship. So why don't you start taking us through like each part of the season? What type of data use cases are there?
Yeah, definitely. It's really a bottom-up culture shift, using data to make better decisions throughout the entire organization. So from the baseball players' life cycle, they start in their amateur series. So this is going to be their high school, your college players, little league, and we have data on that. The players are trying to be drafted near the top of the draft, and we are currently evaluating that today, actually. We have the amateur draft happening in just a couple of weeks here, so we're kind of pulling in that data now. Currently, also in the summer, we also have the trade deadline coming up at the end of the month, and that's going to allow us to acquire players from other teams that may or may not be doing so hot right now, but hopefully should give our team a better chance at making the playoffs. So again, to do that, we have to foster scouts. We also have to foster the actual executives looking at these players. And then finally, we also have to look at development. If we acquire a player, can we make them better? If we get them through the draft, free agency, trade, how can we make changes to ensure that they're the best possible version of themselves?
Yeah, and then after that, it's game day, right? I mean, we got to win games, so strategy, defensive positioning, pitch types and sequencing, you know, all of that stuff. We do it all. Machine learning builds on top of our strategy there through every level.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear more about like structured, you're talking about unstructured data. Like what type of data do you collect, maybe starting on the player side, and then like how do you manage it all? How does that all workflow work?
Yeah, it's a bit of everything. You know, the league, Major League Baseball, provides a lot of data to us. And that's everything from pitch speed, we get weather data every 5 minutes, you know, pressure, and so we look at that to see how it affects ball flight and things like that. But we also, baseball is a very text-heavy industry. We get scouting reports from all over the world that we need to bring together. We have news articles, a beat reporter that follows the team that we like to keep track of and things like that. And so, it's a challenge because not only are we bringing all of this in, the data for a major league game is different than what we're getting for an amateur game, but we need to equalize it. So we bring it all into our Lakehouse, and then we use Databricks to merge it all together, equalize it. And it's not just different from league to league, from ballpark to ballpark, weather and different factors can change play outcomes. And so we run a lot of machine learning through ML flow and things like that to adjust so we can find some sort of baseline, some level of truth for these statistics.
At the end of the day, what we're really trying to do is understand expected performance and athlete true talent. We all have seen those plays where the center fielder robs a home run at the wall, but that batter should be given credit for hitting a really, really good hit and just got a little bit unlucky even though that defender made the play. So how can we try to understand that performance and that talent given inherent characteristics like exit velocity, launch angle, and we use machine learning models and AI to really drive that home. AI is the tool that can find the patterns in the data to really find that true talent in the player. So we know if we acquire Matt Chapman from the Giants, which we won't, on the record, I guess. How is...
Heard it here first.
Oh, gosh. Whoops.
You didn't.
No, don't. Cut that out. We're on live. Anyway, if we acquire someone from a different team, how can we understand how they're going to perform in our stadium 81 games out of the season? And so that's driven by expectations. If we draft a player, how can we expect them to perform at the major league level? If we trade for a single A player from another team, how can we expect them to be a value add to the organization as a whole?
Great. Now, people listening may not know that I spent many decades as an honor working in front offices, both on the analytics side, but then also as a major league scout, as an amateur scout. And the question I get asked all the time that I want to see, the modern take on it is you have human evaluation and you have like text fields as well, which I love what you're doing. And then you have quantitative biomechanical capture. Like, how does that all come together? So, your general manager makes a decision to acquire a player or not, and at what price?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the data is actually just a supplement, but works hand in hand with domain expertise. What we actually see now is a lot of these stakeholders, the scouts, even the players, the coaches, they are coming to us asking for AI added onto their domain expertise. So what I mean by that is a coach may say, hey, I think if I lower this pitcher's arm slot, or if they kind of have a lower squat when they make the swing, do more of an uppercut, I think it'll help using my domain expertise. What does the data say? Can we get that AI expectation about performance given these biomechanical changes, these grip changes, these other ways of interacting with the game? And then the players drive this home too. They come to us saying, hey, I don't know why I'm striking out so much right now. I don't know why my curveball isn't playing so well. Can you guys help us? And so we are trying to be predictive, but also reactive to the players themselves.
Yeah, and we're here in San Francisco, and we last year, local legend Bruce Bochy joined the team.
Yes.
And I mean, he came out of retirement to join us, right? And so we really enjoy the story around our team and everything that, how is this kind of really old school guy going to react to our really data-driven culture? And the way that he melds the two and uses the best of both has been, I mean, really, last year you can point to him for a lot of that, making the best of both worlds.
Great. Well, we have like 1 minute left. I did want to give a first shout out to the team at Databricks, Chris, Hussein, Michelle, Jules, Tony, everyone. What was it like working with Databricks as a partner?
Databricks has been the catalyst for that data-driven change with us. Without Databricks, we wouldn't have that data accessible. We wouldn't have the models stored correctly. We wouldn't have been able to grow as quickly as we did. A lot of our data sources now, they've only been around 2-3 years with these high frame rate data sets. But being on the cloud, being on Databricks allowed us to scale horizontally to meet those new big data streaming demands, as well as also scale from dozens to hundreds of machine learning models used in production. And that couldn't have been done without the team that Hussein, our great SA, Chris, Michelle, everyone that has contributed from their end to build our success.
I just got to do a quick little shout out as well. My kids and my wife are watching. Hey, Josie, Issa, Dominic, love you all. Alyssa, you're my boo.
Well, awesome. Well, to wrap it up, people here Wednesday, the main reason you want to see tomorrow is Alexander going on the big stage. Yeah. So you're going to learn more. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you. All right.
Nice.
All right. All right, and we're going to bring on Pearl. Come on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ari. Hi, everyone. I'm back at Live from the Lakehouse with the awesome Zahira. She was actually a panelist for the Women in Data and AI panel. How was that yesterday?
Oh, that was awesome. That was such a great panel. It was incredible panelists. I had incredible panelists, Shalini and Joan. And we had so much energy.
Yes.
We talked about everything from, being a woman in tech, women in data and AI, responsible data and AI, how do we make it more inclusive?
Yes.
To, what's new in how healthcare, how they're leveraging Gen AI. So it was a very, very fun panel, very inspiring.
Yes, I learned a lot, honestly. But for people that don't know you, please introduce yourself.
I'm Zahira Villani. I'm a VP of Engineering here at Databricks. I work on our sharing and collaboration efforts. I work on Unity Catalog and Databricks SQL.
She's a boss, okay? Don't get it twisted. She is a boss. So tell me a little bit about what you've been working on in terms of data collaboration.
We're so excited about the momentum that we're seeing with sharing and collaboration. We look at it as like the foundation of all of it is Delta sharing. This is the open source protocol that we announced 3 years ago. Incredible momentum with Delta sharing. We announced new strategic partnerships. From the engineering point of view, we've been working on continuing to expand what you can share with Delta sharing. So it's not just data, but being able to share AI models, notebooks, unlocking the AI use cases. And all of this is done with zero replication, like single copy. We're also continuing to make it even more open. We can already use Delta sharing to be able to share data with collaborators who are in different clouds, different regions, not even on the platform. And so we're adding features like view sharing. And Matei will talk a little bit more about some new features tomorrow in the keynote, plug for the keynote tomorrow, where Matei will talk about some new features that are coming as well.
Awesome.
So I just talked about Delta sharing. There's Marketplace. There's also clean rooms. We're really excited about all the work that the team has been doing on clean rooms for privacy-safe collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was like a laundry list of features. I'm even excited, honestly, because I work with Unity Catalog and a little bit of Delta sharing. But what are you most excited for? Like, what is the one feature where you're like, yes, this is the most needed one, and you're so excited about it?
So I'm very excited about serverless.
Serverless,
what
yes.
we talked about in the keynote.
Yeah.
I'm all about simplicity, continuing to make the product experience better. And I think serverless is the game changer for that. So I'm super excited about serverless.
And so just for everyone to understand how hard you work, like how long has this been in the process of like just launching these features and building upon Delta sharing?
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure, and we've continued to make incredible progress. So Delta sharing, we announced the open source protocol 3 years ago. We've continued to make progress. Obviously, working with Unity Catalog because that governance aspect is super important. And so we've been continuing to add. Then last year we GA'd Marketplace. So we've continued to improve on it. So this is a multi-year journey.
I see that. I see that. But I'm seeing your work, like your labor has been fruitful because Delta sharing, I use it recently and I'm like, is it really this easy? Like, it's scary easy. And I think that just I am so happy that you are leading this kind of effort because it's so necessary and it's so important.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you, and I'm a fan.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. We've seen incredible momentum. So I, just throw out some numbers. Like, we're seeing like 16,000, recipients of Delta shares. We've seen 300% year-over-year growth.
300?
In the monthly active Delta shares between providers and recipients.
Well, I'm one of them.
Yeah. The other aspect we've seen is like there's a lot of the openness to it. 40% of the connections that happen to Delta share is with the open source connector. So like, the BI tools like Excel, like even with like open source Spark. So 40% of that is with open source. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
incredible
awesome.
Momentum.
Yeah. So speaking of momentum, this dice has been amazing.
Amazing.
So I want to know, like, how's it been for you? What have you been experiencing? What are you looking forward to? How's it different from the other dice or summits that you've been to?
So this is my third dice. I can't believe
Me
that.
too. I know.
And every year it's like, better and more energy. I'm like, how can that even be possible?
I know.
But this year it's been, the things that I've been most excited about is like a chance to meet with a lot of customers.
Yeah.
I have my team here, like engineers here. They're getting a chance to meet with customers. I want to make a plug for the brain dates.
Yes.
We have Meet a Databricks engineer at the brain dates.
I love that.
So sign up for that.
Okay, I will.
So I've been really excited about that, is like getting, the engineering team being able to meet firsthand with the customers that we're building the platform for.
That is important. And actually, I just thought about something that you shared on the panel yesterday, and I was really inspired by it, just how you weren't really sure what you wanted to do with your life, but look at you. And I kind of want you to inspire the audience and just give like a word of encouragement, like it's okay if you don't know, what direction, because you are amazing. So please, something.
Well, the question yesterday was, about how have you progressed in your career? And so my answer to that was like, it's really two things. I've just continued to follow my passion, like what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And then seizing the opportunities. I wasn't one of those that said, oh, I know exactly where I want to be in 10 years. And so it's been a journey, and those are the two things that have kind of guided me throughout my journey.
Yes, and I loved it because I can definitely relate where like, I always thought that certain things that I should do in my life should lead to, certain results, and it just didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was really inspired by your words yesterday, Zahira.
Thank you.
I hope y'all heard that.
You're super inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Great job on the demo.
Thank you. That was a lot of work, but I'm so happy. Everyone seemed to enjoy it, so thank you. But we are done. We are at time. It was so great having you here this year, and I hope you have a phenomenal summit.
Thank you. Thanks, Pearl.
So we are done here from Live at the Lakehouse. We have our next segment coming up. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a blast.